folks, welcome to iDrum, and today we're in somewhere rather quite special, really, to be quite honest. But we're here with a young man who's just brought out a new record, in fact one that is 10 years since he brought out his last one, if I'm correct. And it's this fantastic record. It's called Subterranean. It's all about the music of David Bowie, and I'm thrilled and delighted to welcome Mr. Dylan Howe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, Dylan.
Nice to be here.
Well, yes, you're very...
I mean, it's my place, but it's nice for you to be here with yeah.
Well, indeed.
You know what I mean.
We do, yeah. This is a fantastic record, people. This is, as I say, it's called Subterranean, and it features the music of David Bowie, specifically the kind of the Berlin trilogy, what is known as the Berlin trilogy, which is Low, Lodger, and Heroes, of course, yes. So, I mean, it's a great record, but first of all, what made you decide that you were going to cover sort of Bowie material?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Yeah, I kind of, I was looking for something to do as, in my own groups, as like a band leader, to have a thing which I felt was kind of a personal, kind of unusual, or a thing that would take me out of the kind of Blue Note sort of adaptations I was doing, or just kind of like the hard bop stuff I was doing. And I'd recently, well, actually, I was just going to say I did a sort of adaptation of Stravinsky's music with Will Hutterworth, a piano player. But that was kind of after the kind of I started this. So I've been kind of looking at other people's music that I really liked, and then trying to find a way to kind of readapt it and to do something with it. And I think I'd always liked a lot of his stuff, a lot of Bowie's music, but especially that kind of mid-70s albums, like, you know, Station Station and those other ones that you said, which some of them were recorded over in Berlin and others was in Switzerland and stuff. So why I think it worked okay was that I just took the instrumental ambient tunes that were on side 2 of each of those albums, so Low and Heroes, and kind of steered away from many of the pop songs. Right. And I think that because you know, there aren't any drums on those songs, or I mean, to call them songs is kind of stretching it occasionally as well. It's very kind of splintered, ambient, just little kind of themes that appear and then they go away, and then it's just about this kind of quite cinematic kind of landscape, and it sounds quite dark and quite kind of like a, sort of, it's a bit like a desolate kind of landscape. So it seems to be good because I think the simpler the melodies are, and the kind of less amount of kind of harmonic stuff, then it's easier to sort of open it up into more of into improvising and into more of like a modal kind of thing. Right. So you've got more freedom if the initial sort of structures or what you have as a source material is quite simple. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's, I mean, they're kind of quite brooding sort of tracks. Yeah, I nearly said broody, but more, they're quite kind of broody. And as I sort of said to you earlier, I'm not really that familiar with Bowie's material, but as a record, it is very cinematic. There's well, that was the point. Yeah. I really, I mean, somebody that's not a Bowie fan could just as easily sit down and absorb this record and go,
that's
wow.
What I was hoping is that it's going to appeal to. It will have an interest for the people that know those albums and think, oh yeah, I remember those. Those were kind of interesting, or and then also, but it's not excluding anyone that kind of thinks, well, I'm not that into Bowie or what I think of him, or and so it will just have it hopefully has a kind of you know, an appeal that will kind of cross over lots of areas. So kind of in the Venn diagram, it's always it's kind of covering lots of the circles. Right, so you've got the bit in the middle, which everyone can go, actually.
I quite like this. Damn.
Well, I was saying to you earlier, I mean, I actually, yesterday, kind of in preparation for coming to do this, I was actually kind of, YouTubing
right.
And what I really liked about it is that there's these really sort of minimal kind of references. You don't overdo the
I try and state the
theme.
tunes and then just kind of I mean, a lot of it is a standard kind of AAPA kind of form thing that we found, but and then I kind of, through really listening to the original versions, you kind of hear more than you thought was initially there, and you find these little sort of splinters of things or little fragments. Right. So it was just a matter of kind of really trying to make the most out of it and to stay true to the kind of the mood of it, but then to go into the kind of places that I like to go to.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, it's nice because you do sort of reference the track, but it's almost blink and you've missed it.
Well, okay.
Which is nice, because it's like for any sort of Bowie fan, they go, ah.
Yeah.
But anybody that's not a Bowie fan, they go, well, that's nice. But it's still absorbed by the actual tune.
Good.
Now I'm curious about Subterranean's, the first track.
Yeah.
Now it's an 11-bar loop.
Well, yeah, it's kind of all depends how you count it. I mean, it's kind of a 7-bar thing if you count in a certain way, but it's sort of deceptively hard to play. Everybody got kind of into this sort of trance thing, and it's just this sort of repeating thing. But the way that the tune is structured against that, so it kind of lands not. Or starts it in sort of other places. So and I thought it was a good way to start the album, as it kind of just gives you a kind of indication or kind of overview of what you're getting yourself into, and so you've got this kind of scope, quite a kind of stately tempo, and it just kind of, and then stuff is overlaying over itself, and
right,
and so you kind of, what I like is that kind of, when you feel like you hear a lot of things at the same time that are kind of overlaying, and they're kind of switching in and out of themselves. So, which is I suppose from a kind of perspective on the drums, it is like a polyrhythmic kind of thing. So I mean, all of us, when we play, we're kind of hearing stuff that is overlaying at the same time. So,
right.
And that is kind of the beauty of all of the great players you would always hear that kind of 3 against 4 is always inside everything that they're doing. So it's a kind of extension of that.
It's very textural as well. The record, there's a lot of really lovely textures that present those kind of, like the moods that you were talking about, that kind of, that sort of Berlin. I mean, in that period, I mean, Berlin was still behind the wall, that whole kind of thing. I mean, it was a dark kind of place.
The stories of them when they were recording the tracks that they did at Hansa on the Wall, they would look out of the windows and they could see the wall and the guards